Anybody else? Anybody else with testimony this morning? If not, turn to John chapter 1. Not a long sermon this morning at all. I generally try not to preach long. Just a simple truth for us this morning. Found in John chapter 1. Read 3 verses, 45, 46, 47. Talking about a man or a woman, applies to both, man or woman, a man or woman of complete integrity. It's a simple truth for us this morning. And I don't like to be complicated because I can't comprehend complicated things. So, simple truth for us this morning, John chapter 1, 45, 46, 47. So, reading out of the NLT, I think it says it a little bit better. Starting verse 45, says, Philip finds Nathanael and saith unto him, We have found him, talking about Jesus, of whom Moses and the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said unto him, Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip saith unto him, Come and see. Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him, and saith of him, Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile. That's 45, 46, 47. I'm sorry, that was out of the King James Version, as you can tell. And the verse I want to kind of get a hold of this morning, verse 47, I'll read it out of the NLT. I like the way it says, And as they approached, Jesus said, Now here is a genuine son of Israel, a man of complete integrity. The KJV says a man of whom there is no guile. I like the way the NLT says it, a man of complete integrity. You know, you don't have to get too far or go beyond, you don't have to walk too far past the church to find out, or get beyond the four walls of this church to find out integrity is lacking in our world today. There's a lot lacking in our world today, but integrity being one of those things lacking in our world today. Now, I think it's interesting. The disciples catch a lot of flack. They catch a lot of flack. And none of Jesus's disciples or any of his other disciples received such a compliment from the Lord. They didn't receive such a compliment from the Lord. He calls this one of complete integrity. But think about what Jesus said about Peter. Peter was a denier. Matthew 26:34 points this out. Verily I say unto thee that this night before the cock crows, thou shalt deny me thrice. Jesus is talking there. This is right before his crucifixion. He says Peter is going to deny him. Peter's going to deny him, and Scripture points that out. That actually happened. Thomas was a doubter. According to John 20:25, the other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the prints of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. Thomas was a doubter. And Judas, perhaps the most well-known, what he did, Judas was a betrayer. As Luke 22 tells us, it says, Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12, and he went his way, and he communed with the chief priests and the captains, how he might betray him unto them. Talking about Jesus, how he might betray Jesus. And so we think about all the things that the disciples did, and they obviously were not perfect men, but they did not receive a compliment like Nathanael did. It seems as though when we read about Christ's disciples, the spotlight is always put on Peter's denial, or Thomas's doubting, or Judas's betrayal. We always put the spotlight on the less glamorous side of them. It's not to say they didn't do great things. It's not to say they didn't spread the gospel beyond Israel and beyond Jerusalem. But it seems like the spotlight is always put on the things that they did wrong, on Judas's betrayal, so to speak. Rarely do we ever hear about this compliment Christ gives to Nathanael, a man of complete integrity. He was a genuine son of Israel, a man of complete integrity. C.S. Lewis says this about integrity: it's doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Even when no one is watching. You know, it's easy to be a upright person around other people. You can put on a mask, you can put on a show, you can make yourself look good in front of other people, but you know, the real you is the you that no one else sees. The real you is what goes on behind closed doors. Maybe you're a good person at the store. Maybe you're a good person in front of other people. And I'm not here to say or point fingers at anyone here this morning, but how are you behind closed doors? Are you one of complete integrity? And it begs the question, and especially at church, you know, you can put on a show, you can put on a mask and things, everything seems okay, but how are you outside of church? A lot of people stop on Wednesday night, they stop on Sunday morning, they stop during holidays, Easter, Christmas, and they kind of put on a show, like they show up for Jesus, and they act like they want a relationship with him, but throughout the rest of the year, it seems like their Bible stays closed, and they don't show up to church. How do we act outside of church? How do we act inside the home? You know, when you leave here and you go home and you eat your Sunday lunch, how do you treat your family? How do you treat your wife, your kids, your husband? How do you treat the others, your immediate family, those closest to you? How do you act outside of church? How do you act in the home? How do you act at work? How do you act at work? I knew of an individual, the holiness individual, and it seemed as though he put on a show at church. He acted upright and he acted good, and he would no doubt open his Bible and pray. But others would tell me, others who worked with him, that it seems like the facade came off when he was at work. You know, are you the same person all the time? Are you one of complete integrity this morning? And this can apply anywhere. You can go to the grocery store. You can go to the mall. You can go to another store. You can go to a car dealership. You could go to a hiking trail. You could go hang out with friends. It doesn't matter where you go, but do you act with integrity all the time? Not just when you're at church, not just when you're around the right people. Are you the same person everywhere you go? One of complete integrity. Oxford Language Dictionary defines integrity as the quality of being honest. Honesty. We think about honesty today. That's something that's lacking in our world. When we think about a lack of honesty, lying, a lack of truth-telling, we go straight to politics, you know, but that kind of trickles down. It may start in politics. It may start with dishonest politicians and dishonest people up top, but that trickles down to the rest of society, and we see a lack of honesty everywhere. People unwilling to tell the truth. Now, does that mean everyone's dishonest? No. But it's certainly lying is a thing, a serious issue in our society today. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. And we look at our world again today. And I was thinking about it the other day. The world has changed so much. The world has changed so much in my 32 years of life. And obviously change is a part of life. But I remember when I was a kid, there's things, moral things I don't want to get too much detail here this morning, things that were not accepted, that have slowly been accepted over time to where it is being pushed and promoted in government, it's being pushed and promoted in civil society. We are a nation of moral decay and having strong moral principles. Integrity entails being honest and telling the truth. It entails being moral, having upright principles, doing what's right. You know, it's easy to tell a lie when it's convenient. It's easy to steal when no one's looking. It's easy to do wrong when no one's looking. But when the eyes are on us, we want to act upright. We want to act proper. But it's easy to do the wrong thing when no one's looking. And that's not how Christians are called to be this morning. That's not how Christians are called to be this morning. Story about Abraham Lincoln. It says, throughout his administration, Abraham Lincoln was a president under fire, especially during the scarring years of the Civil War. And though he knew he would make errors make errors of office, he resolved never to compromise his integrity. So strong was his resolve, he once said, I desire to conduct the affairs of this administration, that at the end, when I come to lay down the reins of power, I have lost every other friend on earth. I shall at least have one friend left, and that friend shall be down inside of me. Do we have that type of resolve this morning? You know, this world can pull us and they can push us and they can bend us and twist us in all type of directions. And it would be easy in the world we live in today, in contemporary society, in 2026, it'd be easy to compromise on our principles. But do we have that resolve this morning to be one of complete integrity that Jesus talks about? Society from the very beginning of time has always had a problem with telling the truth. You know, it's not a new thing to tell a lie. You know, we think some of our problems in America are just complete, or they are distinct to us, but really they're not. And it's definitely not a new thing to tell a lie. And society from the very beginning has always had a problem with telling the truth and doing what's right. And it's become a great human dilemma. We don't have to look any further than the politics in D.C. And I'm not here to get political this morning, I'm not. But it goes without saying that politicians can be dishonest. We all know that this morning. We don't have to look further than the politics of D.C. to see how dishonest and morally debased our society has become. What did President Biden say when he got elected? He would be a president for all Americans. He would fight for all Americans. He would fight for all Americans. That just does not seem like the case now. And Obama, when he was president, he promised Americans they would keep their health care plans, yet he still enforced health care. Yet it's really not about unity. It's about doing what you say and keeping your word. You know, I'm not here to debate Democrat or Republican. That's not what I'm saying. But can men and women today keep their word? We'd be further up the road. We'd be further up there. This isn't a political message this morning, but can we be honest? Can we keep our word even when it's tough, even when it's tough? Scientists now say that a series of slits, not a giant gash, is what sank this Titanic. The opulent 900-foot cruise ship sank in 1912 on its first voyage, its very first voyage. The historic Titanic sank. We've heard the stories before. It was traveling. It's on its voyage from England to New York. 1,500 people died in the worst maritime disaster of the time. The most wildly held theory is that the ship hit an iceberg, and it opened a huge gash in the gash inside of the liner. But an international team of divers and scientists recently used sound waves to probe the wreckage buried in the mud under 2.5 miles of water. Their discovery was this: the damage was surprisingly small, and instead of a huge gash, they found 6 relatively narrow slits across the watertight holds. Watertight holds. Small damage, invisible to most, can sink not only a great ship, but a great reputation. That's the point I'm trying to make this morning. It may be little things that destroy your reputation. You don't have to go out and commit some great sin. You don't have to go out and do some great grievous thing. It could be little things that destroy your reputation, because little things turn into big things. I tell this story in closing. I told you this morning I'm not going to preach long, so I tell this story in closing. In his book, Loving God, Charles Colton draws attention to an incident involving an Indiana judge named William Bontner. Bontner had to pass sentence on Fred Palmer, a decorated Vietnam veteran who was found guilty of burglary. The crime was caused partly by involvement with drugs and alcohol, and Indiana law required a sentence of 10 to 20 years for Palmer's offense. However, new regulations designating a lesser penalty had gone into effect 18 days after Palmer's arrest. To complicate matters, Palmer had become a Christian in jail and seemed to have changed. And should the judge sentence Palmer, a man who had never been to jail, to 10 years or more, or should he declare the older statute in violation of Indiana's Constitution and give him a lighter sentence? Bontner did the latter, and Fred Palmer was out of jail in 7 months and had a job and paying back his former victims, making things right, making restitutions. The events that followed received national attention, and the Indiana Supreme Court reversed the judge's decision and ordered Fred Palmer sent back to prison. The judge's attempts to fight the court's decision during the next 2 years led to his indictment of criminal contempt of court and finally his forced resignation. Fred Palmer was sent back to prison, only to be released 24 months later by the governor. Bontner's conviction cost him his job, but it didn't cost him his integrity. We don't think about integrity too much, but our society is lacking it. Can we say this morning as Christians, and I'm talking specifically about our church. You know, the world can march on and do what they want to do, but do we have integrity? The type of integrity Jesus was talking about. Can he find no guile in us? Can he find us men and women of complete and total integrity? It's easy to do the right thing when people are watching. It's easy to act a certain way when people are watching. But how are we behind closed doors? Do we act upright? Do we do the right thing? Even when we're pushed and prompted to do the wrong thing. Let's stand this morning. Let's stand.
Thank you for watching
Community
Lighthouse
Ministries.